Hey there, it's Tom Ryan, founder and CEO of ICR. Before we get into the next episode, I wanted to ask that you subscribe to the show. It'll help us get even more unique and interesting guests on the podcast and in turn continue to educate management teams and the growing ecosystem that creates value for fast-growing private and public companies. And while you're at it, head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating. Very much appreciated.
I think personalization of working out is like the holy grail. Everybody forms habits differently, meaning some people need community. Some people just need one person to tell them to work out again. Some people just need it on their schedule. Everyone's different. And that's really been what our investment in AI has been about.
AI is putting the personal back in personal fitness with customizations that make it easy to find routines that you'll actually be able to stick to.
What's happening is like allowing people to take control over their own health, largely because of devices and then software and AI that explains it to you that basically allow you to control our own destiny. We can shift from going to the doctor to being preventative, right, as opposed to reactionary.
Being a public company can be hard. Small missteps can have outsized consequences. I'm Tom Ryan, founder and CEO of ICR, and over the last 25 years, we've helped thousands of companies understand and navigate the stock market and the media. We'll demystify these and other increasingly complex stakeholder groups so you can focus on what you do best, building your company and unlocking your true potential. This is Welcome to the Arena from ICR. Personalization has transformed nearly every industry, replacing one-size-fits-all solutions with tailored experiences. Think self-serve kiosks in fast food or streaming algorithms that anticipate your content preferences. Consumers now expect products to adapt to them, not the other way around. In health and fitness, where everybody's habits, goals, and motivations vary, personalization is crucial to progress. But adding more options in an already saturated space is not the only solution. Today's guest knows that lasting, accessible fitness starts with an approach that adapts in real time and seamlessly integrates into people's everyday lives. Today, we're sitting down with Kevin Duffy, CEO of iFIT, the global leader in connected fitness. Kevin is a seasoned executive with experience leading both private equity-backed and public consumer-branded technology companies. Some of Kevin's core strengths include steering organizations through transformative, organic growth, completing integrative, accretive acquisitions, and delivering superior investor returns. Kevin holds a Bachelor's of Economics from Princeton University and an MBA from Stanford Graduate School of Business. Let's enter the arena with Kevin Duffy. So you've had like a fascinating career. I'd love to hear about it and also how the iFIT opportunity came to you originally.
Yeah, I spent almost 20 years at the place I was prior to iFIT, which was called Sound United. I joined there right out of business school. And when I joined, it was actually a car alarm company. So at the very beginning, it was Viper Car Alarms. And it had recently been sold to Trivest, a private equity firm based out of Miami. So that was the beginning of my working with private equity firms. But over the 20-year period, the company changed a lot. We got in the satellite radio business. We sold the car alarm business, got out of the satellite radio business, went public, went private again.
Wow.
And then really transformed the company into a leader in premium audio equipment. And that was the big change where we ended up buying maybe 10 companies, the biggest being Denon, Marantz, Bowers & Wilkins, Polk Audio, and others, integrating them into a platform. And then ultimately sold that in early 2022. And through one of the potential buyers, I met somebody who had a relationship with iFIT. And that investor then introduced me to Al Catterton, which is the principal investor in iFIT. And Mags, who runs that fund, started calling me about this opportunity. And I was really trying to take a year off, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to spend some time. I'd never done that. I'm 49. I'm like, I'm going to take a year off. I know I'm going to work until I'm 80 or whatever. So I'm like, 1 year off sounds good. 1 year was like more like 4 months. And I came because I was just really excited about the opportunity.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, what is iFIT? You know, how did it kind of start?
Yeah. I mean, first, simplest, I guess. It's a leader in personalized interactive fitness training. So that's the simplest. There are a bunch of elements to that. And I would say the most meaningful is the content library. You know, we've got 10,000 workouts, over 100 trainers. But those workouts are very, very different than other kind of workouts that you've seen.
Right.
We call it destination content. Every continent, 50 countries, we have these beautiful workouts for your running or rowing or biking or strength or yoga or whatever it might be.
Or even climbing Mount Everest, right?
Climbing Everest. Yeah, we got a Emmy nomination for that. It's really cool. And that's one of the main reasons I came. I mean, it's a library of content that I don't think will ever be really duplicated. And then that runs on, we've got a bunch of different hardware, right? We're number one in hardware equipment with treadmills, bikes, rowers, ellipticals, and strength equipment. But the content works with the hardware in a really unique way with our software. So I'll use, a treadmill as an example. Like if you're running in the cliffs of Moher, right, which is one of the workouts, through Smart Adjust, the hardware will mimic the topography of the run. So if you're doing intervals, the hardware will change its incline to match what you're running, and it will do the speed that the trainer wants it to be. So there's this magical interaction between the content and the equipment. And then the last key element is the brands, of course. Like NordicTrack is our brand.
Yep.
Everybody pretty much knows that brand. We also own ProForm, which is a more accessible brand. And then Free Motion, which is the brand we use when we work with gyms.
And you're doing this at scale already. I don't know how old the company is, but you have millions and millions of members across, lots of companies around the world. Where does that stand, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, the company is a little over 600 million in revenue today. And it's got scale globally across most countries. I think outside of the US, we have pretty material opportunity to continue to grow, but it's across most countries, got about 1,000 employees.
Yeah.
Company's got scale for sure, which enables us to invest, I think, in a differentiated way.
That's big time. Well, I think when most people think of the fitness industry, generally, it's like a very crowded space. You touched on kind of the destination fitness and some of the other stuff, but I think it's worth just revisiting and talking about what really separates iFIT from the other fitness platforms and technologies.
Yeah, I mean, I would always go first into the content and the way it works. It's expensive to create content like that, a library like that. It's different. I mean, some people want studio content, right? They want to be in a community on a bike with others. Some want a one-on-one, like show me how to do biceps. These are very different. I mean, you can go anywhere. We've got one where you like walk through Antarctica. And why does that matter, I guess, is an important question. I think it's because working out's hard, right? I mean, I think the reality is it's pretty easy to give up.
And everybody's different, what they're motivated by, right?
Exactly. Everyone's different, what they're motivated by. And that's really been what our investment in AI has been about. I think personalization of working out is like the holy grail. That's why people get personal trainers. Personal trainers are expensive. They're very expensive. So I think trying to democratize personal training using AI is definitely a noble goal. We started putting money behind that about 18 months ago. With the first part being what you said, Tom, like, okay, everyone has a different goal. My goal might be, I want to lose 5 pounds, or I want to run a 5K, or I want to run a marathon, or I just want to lift my grandchildren. Like whatever it is, it's different by human. And then therefore your workout should be different. So that's kind of what we're doing with AI, is to try to enable a personalized workout program.
Yeah. And I think one of the cool things as I read about your AI initiative is habit forming, right? I think that's what everyone really wants, is they want to get into the routine. They want to have a habit. Were you a technologist before this? I know you kind of had that background with the prior company you were at that certainly was in the ecosystem of technology. This is like a whole other level. How did you get educated on it? And talk about like that habit forming aspect.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you are right. Like forming bad habits is actually pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
Forming good habits is way harder. And forming a good habit of fitness is obviously great for your life. So part of our AI coach's goal is to help you form good habits. I always joke like the world conspires against you from working out.
Totally.
Like you wake up and I can't find my shoes, or a member of the board of directors calls, or
or any excuse.
Right. So we're trying to make AI keep you on course. And what's cool about it is everybody forms habits differently, meaning some people need community. Some people just need one person to tell them to work out again. Some people just need it on their schedule. For me, I need accountability. So being held accountable, like, hey, Kevin, you said you were going to work out, but you didn't, which is what it does. Would you like me to reschedule? It looks like you're available tomorrow at 8 or whatever. it will figure out what it works.
And it's like texting you, right?
Yeah.
AI's
Yeah.
texting you.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And it will figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
It's different for all of us. I mean, it's such a cool technology from that perspective because it really can help. In terms of your question about me, I'm not like I didn't major in computer science or anything like that, but my whole career has been in consumer technology. I mean, that's basically all I've ever done. And it's really been the integration of streaming, some form of streaming content. It used to be streaming music, right? Not streaming fitness.
Yep.
Software that makes that easy, and then hardware that brings it all to life. That's hard to do, those three elements well. And it needs to feel really intuitive and easy for the consumer. So I think my experience in audio is applicable here from that perspective.
Yeah, totally. And you talked about the 50th anniversary of NordicTrack, which is like just become such an iconic brand. I remember like in the beginning with NordicTrack and the ropes and the handles and the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
But I know you recently launched the NordicTrack Ultra One treadmill. Talk about the power of that brand and then the launch of the Ultra One.
Yeah. One of the reasons I came to the company was NordicTrack, the brand, because of course, just the accumulated awareness over 50 years is hard to achieve.
Yeah.
And it's definitely an advantage for the company. I actually underestimated how strong the brand is. I got here and it's stronger than I thought. The awareness is really, really high. And with the Ultra One, the goal was, I got into the fitness industry and I started looking at all the products. A lot of them look the same. And people would talk about, well, here's the new one. And I say, well, it kind of looks like the last one, right? It's like, mostly looks like the last one. And coming from the audio industry, you're always like, how do I put a big speaker in a room and get permission to do that? Because, the perfect sounding speaker is not very beautiful. It's like a big rectangle, but you can't do that. It has to be beautiful. So you get permission. And I think a lot of fitness equipment's been relegated to the garage or the third bedroom or whatever because it doesn't look that nice. Our goal with Ultra One was, how do we make the best treadmill on the planet, meaning great for your knees, great incline, great decline, all the key features that you need, but also it be beautiful because it's hard to do both things.
Yeah.
And so that's the purpose. Ultra One's industrial design is made to be more like furniture than anything else. So that's beautiful and it can have a place in your home, but it's also, the most robust, highest performance treadmill on the planet.
Yeah. It's very cool. And you alluded to earlier in the interview kind of the size and the scale of the business, and it is international and becoming even more international. I know that most of the business, at least from what I've read, is still in North America. International is a massive opportunity. How do you approach international growth? How is that opening up for you, and what markets get you fired up?
I mean, I think the first question is what was holding the company back previously from achieving this?
Yeah.
And the biggest single one was all of our content was in English, right? So we have the 10,000 workouts in English. You're going to sell them to the UK and Australia, but it's a little tough to go sell into Germany or China, of course.
Yep.
It's another example of how the evolution of AI has been really powerful. It would have been very expensive to make all these workouts over again in native languages. But through AI, we've been able to, I think we've got 8 or 10 languages now, and it's wonderful. Like it's seamless. The language is perfect. So that's enabling us to expand overseas. We've brought on board somebody who's great at that. And we're really focused on Germany right now and China, both, material markets, different. Germany's a more mature market, but very, very fitness oriented market. China, of course, is a very large market, quickly growing in terms of opportunity for fitness. And we had a material audio business there previously. It's also willingness to pay is relatively high and a big part of the country there. So we just opened up our Shanghai office there to go after that market.
I read that. Is there a trick to China? Like, in all of your experience in your career, kind of how do you approach the complexities of doing business in China?
I think the key, in my experience, is to position at the high end. I think it's hard to compete at the low end there. There are a lot of competitors and they're fierce competitors and they're good at what they do, right? And so being in that area, I think, is difficult. I think it's better to lean on where we're strong, great content, great products, higher price points, more luxury oriented, more premium oriented, where we have a materially better opportunity to succeed. That's what we did in my prior life, and that's what we'll do here too.
As As early adopters of AI technology, iFIT are ahead of the game when it comes to customization and innovation. They're also expanding their product lineup with cutting-edge features like Smart Adjust, Active Pulse, and Workout Creator that continue to push the boundaries of personalized fitness. I wanted to hear from Kevin about how these features set iFIT apart and give them a competitive advantage across the industry.
Yeah, they're all, I want to put all three of those features into the personalization bucket, right? They're all made to try to, how do I adapt to you as an individual? Smart Adjust, for example, if you're doing a workout and let's say you're doing the Cliffs and More interval training I mentioned previously, and it's too fast, right? It's going too fast, miles per hour, or too steep, and you make an adjustment on the machine to lower the elevation or lower the speed. It will remember that about you. And then every workout you do subsequent to that, it will dial in the workout to exactly what you want in terms of speed, distance, all that stuff. Active Pulse does the same thing, but with heart rate. And so if you're wearing any form of a heart rate monitor, we will intake heart rate and then adjust the workout so that you stay in the zone, like zone 2 for X number of minutes, right? It'll dial that working in to make sure your workout's exactly right. I'd say that's part one. You think 10 years from now, the number of biometric devices out there now,
Yeah.
and what we're going to be able to pull, hydration, HRV. It's a long list of what we will be able to use in order to customize the workout. And then the last one, Workout Creator. Some people just want to do exactly the thing they want to do, right? They don't want to use the content set that already exists. Workout Creator allows you to do that. You can get in and say, I want to do 5 intervals, this distance, this speed, with a 20-second walk in between. So you can go ahead and program that in and then save it, and you'll always have exactly the thing that you want to do.
And you're syncing, or you have the ability to sync with like Google Fit, Apple Health. Like, talk about that as well.
Yeah, largely today, that's heart rate.
Yep.
Okay, so that's heart rate feeding the system to get your heart rate to the right place. But long term, and I think this is the third pillar of our AI strategy. If part 1's personalization, part 2's habit formation, part 3 is, verifiable biometric outcomes.
Yeah.
If we can know, here's where you were at the beginning, Tom. We figured out your personalized workout. We know you adhered to it with habit formation. And here's what your heart rate looks like now. And let's say it doesn't work. Okay. We can feed that back into the algorithm and say, okay, that didn't work.
Yep.
What should we do differently? And as we do that at scale, we're learning so quickly, it'll just get better and better.
Yeah. And talk about learning. You have lots and lots of users around the world. How do you get their feedback, and how do you bring that back into enhancing kind of your products and services? Because I have to think you're just swimming in data, right?
Yeah. Yes. And I love that part of this business. We have one of our core values of the company is in service of the athlete, and our athletes are our subscribers.
Yeah.
We have a big D2C business and then the subscription business. So we have one-to-one relationships with very large group of people. And we're getting the feedback all the time. There's a ton of ways we do it. Of course, we're asking them. We do focus groups with our subscribers. We get feedback through customer service. And your question is a good question, because it's like we have to integrate all that feedback into a central location, which is what we do. Understand what they're asking for. And it drives a lot of innovation, right? Like we're hearing from our members, I love these workouts, but like I really need a workout like this.
Yeah.
Right. And that will drive our content strategy, or they'll want a particular kind of feature that will drive our software engineering strategy. So yeah, you get real-time feedback. It's wonderful.
It's such a huge competitive advantage. Like the bigger you get, the more data you have, the better your products can be. So it's like a flywheel. As you expand, how do you look at the company's culture? And I'd love to hear about your management team. Talk about the company culture and how you're trying to build that and what you're trying to achieve.
I think culture is, honestly, I think it's the most important thing. Talent and culture. Why do football teams win games? Well, because they have the best players.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal, right? It's probably more important. And early in my career, I always thought I could just, through my force of will, figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. And then over time, you learn that's not actually how it works. What I need is the best people on the planet, a very clear goal, and then a culture and system that allows them to achieve, right? That's what we're trying to build. And on culture, I think bureaucracy is like the biggest problem. by far.
Yeah.
Especially when you get bigger. It's super simple when you got 20 people in the same room. Like, that's not hard. It's when you get bigger and you have all these people and it's competing priorities, bureaucracy creeps in. And it's going to happen no matter what. So really, it's like, how do you manage that? How do you minimize it? How do you make sure it doesn't slow you down? How do you make sure you hire people that work well cross-functionally and aren't kingdom builders? It's the most important part of the job, right?
Yeah.
Because your strategy is going to change, right? So as long as you have the right people who are agile, they will change with it. So I spend a lot of time on that. It's probably 75% of my job, I'd say.
What are some macro trends happening in the fitness industry in kind of 25 and 26 as you look out? And how are you guys positioned on those things?
I think it's the best time to be in health and wellness. I think it's been talked about for a bunch of years, and that's been like a trend, but suddenly it's actually happening. I was at the Consumer Electronics Show a couple weeks ago, and the amount of investment going into health and wellness across the board, big players, LG, Apple, Samsung, everybody, because it's a big industry, medical care and insurance and the whole thing is big. So I think what's happening is like allowing people to take control over their own health. In the movie business, you'd have to go to the movie theater and pick like from 4 movies and the time you were going to watch it.
Yeah.
And now that sounds ridiculous. Right? We can watch any movie we want at any time. I think that's going to happen in health and wellness, largely because of inexpensive biometric devices that basically allow you to take into your own hands how you're doing physically, and then software and good AI that explains it to you. So we can control our own destiny. We can shift from going to the doctor to being preventative, right, as opposed to reactionary. Yep. And I think fitness for us, like, is really important to that wheel. I mean, there's a lot of elements there. Mindfulness, there's a bunch of nutrition, sleep, a bunch of parts that matter. But I want to be just the best in the world at fitness in that whole ecosystem.
And, think about the new administration, whether you're for or against, like, forget the individual. It's kind of like, wow, all of a sudden there's like a distrust of everyone taking pills all the time and big pharma and vaccines potentially maybe having more transparency. And now you might have someone in here who is really hammering on health and statistics and all that. I mean, maybe a quick comment on your feeling about that tidal wave that seems to be happening politically.
Well, yeah, you kind of have to ask the question, is what we were doing before working, right?
Yeah.
And it's not.
Right.
Like, we were talking about health and wellness and people weren't getting healthier. So it wasn't working. And so taking a more proactive approach earlier on in your life is clearly the right answer, right? I mean, and understanding what exercise does for you, what nutrition does for you, what the right mental framework does for you. Those are the things that are leading to the outcomes that none of us want to be anymore. And then, of course, pharmaceuticals then come to play later on to treat it, as opposed to dealing with it early on. So I think just asking the question, like, where did we go wrong?
Yeah.
And how do we adjust?
Perfectly fair to do.
Is the right thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And I saw that you did a partnership with Flex, just in keeping with people being more in control of their own like healthcare and fitness. Talk about that. It seemed like a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it was smaller for us, but it's pretty cool that people can start using those funds for proactive health as opposed to, reactive. So yeah, we partnered with them, and it performed really well. Like, people were excited to use those funds to go buy something that can make them healthier.
Yeah, just like another clever way to achieve your goal. I did have a question I wanted to ask you, just given your background dealing with private equity. Like, your sponsor, Catterton, is just world-renowned, the best of the best. But as you're looking at the P&L and you're growing the business and the balance sheet and all that, how do you balance innovation and investment with delivering on profitability numbers?
I mean, that is the question, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like,
yeah.
So I have worked with private equity firms basically since 2003. So it's been most of my career. We were public for maybe 5 years, but when we were public, we also had large private equity investors still in the company.
It's the same expectations, whether you're public or private. You're in the spotlight, you have to deliver.
Yeah. And I believe private equity ownership is wonderful for companies. I believe it's one of the best forms of ownership there is by far.
Yep.
Largely because it creates discipline. And I think discipline is good. And it really gets to your question, like, okay, how are you going to allocate capital?
Yeah.
And man, you get laser-like focused when you got $100 instead of $1 billion, right? And you've really got to make smart choices, and waste is eliminated quickly, right? More quickly than you would if you didn't have the discipline, that would kind of drag on. Bad ideas would drag on versus bad ideas being dealt with quickly and then capital rediverted to the best ideas. So
Yep.
look, I think it's a daily challenge. You got to deliver on the long term, while also delivering the results in the short term. That's just part of the job. But I love it. And in the case of El Caterden, they're an amazing fund to be working with. They've been doing fitness investing for a very long time.
Forever.
Yeah, and they're experts in the field. It's a large fund also. So when opportunities arise for us, we're backed by somebody who can help us move quickly. So yeah, it's a challenge, but I love it.
When you look out at 25 and 26, you can only do so many things well in any given year. What are you most excited about, like when you look over the next 24 months? What 2 or 3 things, initiatives kind of get you all jazzed up at this point?
It's AI, software, and content.
Yeah.
Those 3 areas are the 3 areas that I could spend infinity amount of money on. Okay, like those 3 areas there's so much opportunity.
That would be so fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be. It would be fun. It would be fun for a minute, Tom.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. You're right.
But yeah, so those are the areas of opportunity. And then it's really like, how do we allocate capital within those ideas, right? It's because AI, as an example, there's just an unbelievable amount of things you can achieve. So it's how do you think through prioritization, ordering them right? But the vision is quite clear. AI is going to power what we talked about, personalization, habit formation, healthier lives. And if we can have the best content library in the planet that AI is accessing, and then the software that makes it super easy to use, that is the future of fitness.
iFIT is proving that in an industry as personal as health and wellness, customization isn't just a trend, it's the foundation for lasting change. By staying ahead of AI advancements and harnessing real-time data, they built a platform that actively adapts and evolves with its users. This constant innovation, along with seamless integration and a focus on habit building, is setting iFIT apart and empowering people to take control of their health. In a crowded space, iFIT makes the choice obvious: more options or the one that truly fits. At Welcome to the Arena from ICR, we're working really hard to bring you exciting guests and great content. If you found this episode insightful, please subscribe to the show on your podcast app and leave us a 5-star rating. The more the show grows, the more interesting voices we can have on the podcast, and in turn, that should demystify a lot of the stakeholders around public companies and soon-to-be public companies. Thank you so much for listening. I'd like to thank Kevin Duffy for joining me on the show today. With recent innovations like AI-driven language capabilities, iFIT is positioned to continue scaling its global presence, breaking down barriers, and making fitness even more accessible for users in every market. This is Tom Ryan. We'll see you next time back in the arena.
References to specific stocks are not intended to be recommendations for specific trading behavior. Comments presented on this podcast are intended for informational and educational purposes only, and do not represent opinions or recommendations on whether to buy, sell, or hold shares of a particular stock. All investors are advised to conduct their own independent research into individual stocks before making a trading decision. In addition, investors are advised that past stock performance is no guarantee of future price performance.